Okay, this is going to be a quick tutorial on the date command in the Linux terminal. I'm going to open a terminal window and I can type in the command date and press enter, and it prints out the current date of whenever I executed this command. Okay, so it gives the day of the week, the month, the first three letters of the month, the day of the month. It prints out the time, time zone, and year. All right. So if I want to print out a date for the 4th of July this year, all right, so we're going to say date, and I'm going to add a specific date. So I use the -D option, and then I add a space. What comes after the -D option is 2019-07-04. Okay. Now in computer science, commonly when we're talking about dates, we do the year first, then the month, and then the day. Now the reason for this is because the year is the least specific thing, and then the month is slightly more specific, and then the day is even more specific. This is important when you have a lot of files organized by date. Then when you look at them and you sort them, you're going to see all of the files from one year. They'll all be grouped together, and then you'll see all the files from the next year. Similarly, all of the files from one year and that month will all be grouped together. Alright. Similarly, all of the files from one particular day will be grouped together just because of the sorting. Alright. And I'll show you that at the end here. So we have a date -D. So this is going to be July 4th. So this year it should be on a Thursday, and this is July 4th, 2019. Okay, so we can also format this date however we want. All right, we look at the man pages. That's the manual entry for the the date command. So date, print or set the system date and time. Okay, so -D, it displays the time described by a string. So whatever string you provide, that's the date, and we just did that with 4th of July. Now what we want to do up here is we see this format code. All right, so the synopsis is how you use the command. You have date and then any options you want to supply. So we supplied the -D option, space, and then string. That's the same as providing it like this. There's two different ways to do it. And then after you've supplied all of your options, you might have more options to supply. At the very end, you specify the format that you want the date command to print the date. Okay, so the formatting here, if we scroll down in the man page, we have format controls. Okay, all of these different things. What we're going to be looking for is the year. So we want to look for a Y. So capital Y. Capital Y means print out the year at 4 digits. Lowercase y would print out the last 2 digits of the year. All right. We want the year. We want the month. Let's see. There we go. Month. So lowercase m is the month. Capital M would be a minute if you were working with time. Okay. We want the month, and then we want days. Okay, so %D, day of the month. Alright, so let's try that. We're going to do the 4th of July again, and let's print it out more like a common American date. Alright, so in a common American date, we would do the month first, %M, and then commonly we use slashes to separate the items in the date. So we have the month / lowercase d for the day, and then / capital Y. Alright, now from a computer science perspective, this is a bad way to write a date, because you start with the middle specificity, right? Month is not the least specific, nor is it the most specific. It's right in the middle. Day is the most specific, and then year is the least specific. Okay, so this is a very strange way to write a date in terms of a computer's perspective on things. All right. In Europe, a lot of times they'll do it the other way, where they will have the least specific, so %D, and then they'll do a hyphen, and then slightly more specific, I'm sorry, day is the most specific, %M is a little bit more general, and then %Y is even more general. Okay, so it's the opposite as we would normally do it in computer science. Okay, so here this is more of kind of a European style, the fourth, and then the month, and then the year. Okay, but in computer science, it's almost always the most general, which is year, to more specific, which is the month, to even more specific, which is the day. Alright, so we can create this date, and this can be useful when we want to be writing a program and we want to, for example, make a log entry of the program, and if something goes wrong, we might want to log an error to a log file. Okay, something goes wrong with our program, we want to know what it is so we can make the program better. Okay, so if I use the touch command, I can create a file. So let's cd into my desktop, and anything I create in my desktop folder is going to show up here on my screen. Alright, so I want to use the touch command to create a file, and I can say this is program.log. Okay. If I want to echo something in there, I can say I can add some error message. Generally, you'd add something a little bit more useful than program failed. You'd talk about why it failed. Anyway, this error message is going to go into my log file. Okay, so I want to keep all of the log messages in there that already exist, and then I want to add this line at the bottom. Okay, so I use double greater than symbols. Okay, so that takes the output of this command right here, and because I'm using two greater than symbols, it adds it to the file. Program failed. Oh, I forgot my quote. Here we go. Alright, so echo, this is what is being printed, not the quotation marks. Everything inside of the quotation marks is going to be printed to the file. Oh, the exclamation point is a special character. Alright, so I had to, inside of the string, I had to say backslash because the exclamation point has a special meaning on the command line. So I open this up, and we see we have error, program failed. Alright, so if instead of just calling this log, I might have a program that runs every day, all day long, and I want to specify log output based on the day. Okay, so I'll create a new log file every day if there's an error, and that way I can look through my folder of log files and see when this happened. Okay, so let's remove program.log. Alright, and now let's do the same thing. We're going to say error, program failed again, but instead of making the file called program.log, what I want is for the date to be the name of the file. Okay, so in Linux we can do that with backticks. Whatever, I make two backticks, and whatever I type inside of these backticks is a command that will get executed. Now when that command returns a result, that result will be placed right here, wherever the backticks are. Alright, so up here, for example, we did date -d, and this is the 4th of July, and so this was the output of that command. So if I type that same thing in here, date, and I want it to be the current date, so I'm not going to add a specific date with -d, but I do want to format it properly, and I want to add the formatting character, plus, and the quotation marks, and The format I want is the year, percent lowercase m for the month, percent lowercase d. Alright, so now this command is going to be executed, and the result of that command is going to be placed here where the backticks are. So I'm going to echo this output and put it to this file. The file name is going to be the date, the current date, .log. Alright, so we see 2019-06-10. We now have a log file (2019-06-10), and this is an error message that we got in our log file. If I run the command again, say the same error happens again, because I use double greater than symbols, it doesn't overwrite the entire file, it just adds a line. So now we have two messages about this specific error. Okay, so there's a lot of ways in Linux to string commands together. Alright, here we have an echo command. It's a command all by itself that would normally print to standard output. We're using the redirection operators to redirect the standard output into a file, and then the file name we're using backticks to programmatically create the date and create a log file. Alright, so whenever you would run this, it would be the date that is currently running on the system. Alright, so there's lots of different ways to string these commands together in Linux. And we also learned a little bit about the pipe operator, where the pipe operator takes what would be standard output and puts it to standard input of the following command. Okay, so these terms are going to come up a lot. Standard output, which normally prints to your terminal. Standard input is one way of inputting data to a program. And then standard error is a channel where you can receive messages about the program. If there was an error that occurred in the program, that generally is printed out to the channel standard error. Those three channels are very important, and they will come up a lot. Okay, so that's enough for the date command, and you can use that in lots of different ways. You can even use the date command in your error messages, right? You can say when the error occurred, stuff like that. So the date command is very powerful. It's one of the many tools you have at the Linux command line.